Hello, you awesome people. We are live again and talking about what's going on in the world. What is going on in the world? Asking questions about things that don't make sense. And I've got here with me Damian, a mate, and we haven't known each other very long, but we have met through these last few years of craziness amongst hundreds of other people. And anyway, I'll hand it over to Damian. Damian, what is going on in the world?
Hey Darren, thanks for the chat. Look, my understanding of what's going on in the world pretty much started with astrology, I guess. I've been studying astrology for, well, at the time in 2017 I'd been studying for probably about 20 something years, and at the beginning of 2017 I started to see things happen in the heavens, like in the movement of the planets, that actually matched up with scripture in the Bible. And I had never been, I wasn't a religious person. I didn't grow up religious. I didn't even believe in the Bible. I thought it was pretty much total garbage. But I started to see, things happening in the movement of the planets that matched up with scripture in the Bible. And so for me, that was a huge, wake-up call to maybe realise that stuff we'd been told, well, I particularly had been told about the Bible, wasn't maybe true. And so I started trying to understand how the Bible made sense to the movement of the planets. And that's pretty much where it started. And I started to see, so basically there's been a massive shift in energies, which pretty much started to be quite full on in 2017. And it was, I'm sure a lot of other astrologers would maybe argue about dates and stuff like that. But for me personally, my studies, it was basically the significant turning point from the age of Pisces into the age of Aquarius.
Okay, so that's getting pretty deep for non-astrology people and and non-religious people, but it's all good. We're all open-minded listeners, aren't we? And
I think it's important to reiterate that I'm not a religious person. For me, this observation had nothing to do with religion at all. It was like I have been told by Christians that I'm practicing witchcraft and black magic and stuff because, according to religion, they say that you're not meant to study the stars, that's a bad thing. But getting back to the original point, I started to see a shift in the energies, and so I wanted to understand how that shift in the energies was manifesting here in reality, if that makes sense.
Okay.
And that's how I started to go down the path of I guess seeing, a lot of people call it conspiracy theorists, but I started delving down that because, as crazy it may sound, it made more and more and more sense as to what I was observing, both in the movement of the planets and what was happening in real time as well.
Okay, so how did that to relate what we could see physically at that time? 2017?
Yeah, 2017, which is, as probably most people will know, it was when this big shift in power was happening in America with Trump. And Trump took office he was inaugurated at the beginning of March 2017. And again, before I even knew of that, I was seeing these changes happen in the planets. And then when I started to see that this Trump administration was all a military occupancy, that's when I started to go, okay, that's this shift in power that I'm seeing in the heavens. That's what's manifesting here in reality, is this shift of basically government control to military control. That's the big shift that's happened. Yeah.
That's really interesting. I've seen some information about that too. That anybody who's seen my videos before, but we talk about lies. We've been lied to on a massive scale.
100%.
For decades, centuries.
Centuries, yeah.
Centuries. and
about many things. Yeah,
yeah, it's mind blowing, isn't it?
100%, man.
And
It is.
so, just getting back to what you were saying about the governments, I mean, who we think is in control
Isn't. That's right.
really.
Isn't really, no.
Yeah.
And you can actually see evidence of that when you go digging into legislation and policy and like military procedure and laws and all that sort of stuff.
Mm.
You know, basically, you know, to keep it as simple as I can, the military came first. You know, a lot of people think the government was created and then the military, and then the government created the military. That's not how it worked at all. That's not how it worked at all. It was young men, you know, 18, 20, 21-year-old young men who fought against the British for their independence. And when they established their independence, when they, you know, won their independence, they basically set up a constitution that would allow them to rule their own lives and have their own freedoms that wasn't ruled by British monarchy, by British rule. And so in their original constitution, the military set a clause which is basically that if the government ever became too powerful, if it ever started to have too much overreaching arms, that the military had a constitutional responsibility and obligation to overthrow the government. That's written in their constitution. And so in 2000 well, actually it was in 2015, 2016 where the military signed and put into place what's called the Law of War Manual, which basically usurps constitutions temporarily and puts many countries, not just the US, it puts many countries under this international military law, you know, all based under the codes of conduct during war times of war, right? The Law of War Manual. And so under that Law of War Manual, in 2017 when Trump took office, he basically started signing a whole bunch of executive orders that gave the US military authority to do lots of things.
That is mind blowing in itself. Just possibility that Trump is still in control and has been, and we are just seeing a puppet show.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And even when you understand the truth about Biden and who Biden really is, and then you see how close and cuddly Albanese is with Biden, you can see and know, not just believe, as we were talking before, but you can know that Albanese is following the same laws, the same orders as Biden, who is actually being controlled by military.
And it's this is the thing too, isn't it? Like once you ask questions about things that don't make sense, and you go down a lot of rabbit holes, and it's a massive picture, and once you see it, you don't unsee it.
That's right, you can't. And the more you know, you know, and again, I hate to sort of quote a Q post, but if you know, you know, like the more you actually know, the more you can see evidence of this process. It's not like people have said, oh, you're one of these idiots who trust the plan. It's like, no, I don't trust the plan. I see evidence of it every single day. There's a big difference. Big difference. You know, and again, when you know the legislation, when you understand the legislation, and then you see what's happening, it becomes... I don't even doubt this process anymore because, you know, what do they say? How many coincidences before it becomes mathematically impossible? And to me, it's beyond mathematically impossible now. I know that it's happening.
So some pretty deep stuff we're talking about. But, what about the basics, Damian? Like getting back 3 years ago, and you know, what happened with the mandates with you?
I didn't, the whole 2 years or whatever, I didn't wear a mask once. I didn't get any vaccinations. Yes, I was. Yes, there was some interesting experiences going to places without a mask and trying to, you know, conduct day-to-day activities without getting yelled at, screamed at. But I stood solid. You know, like I kept my calm as best as I could. I explained that no, I'm not going to participate in that. Thanks very much. Yes, there were a few times where I had to try and help people get the law, you know, because the bottom line is your medical information is protected under Australian privacy laws. 1988 Privacy Act, right? Your medical information, which includes vaccination history, is no one's business. The only way that information can be accessed by anyone is, well, there's two ways it can be accessed. A, you give consent, like you give your permission for that information to be given, or it gets subpoenaed under a court order. So unless, and this is what I would say to people, unless you plan on suing me and taking me to court and then having the judge order a subpoena, then maybe you'll get my medical information.
Yeah. And then there's also the common law principles that I really like. I heard it explained beautifully today. In an interview, what is common law? It's common sense.
Exactly.
It's common sense.
100%.
And it's the common law, again, just as a reminder, there's 4 basic principles: don't hurt anybody, don't steal anything, keep the peace, and commit no fraud. And if you think of everything else that's been created...
And I want to add too, and you're not a person. You are never a person. You are a living man or a living woman. You are not a person. The definition of person is a corpse, corporation, dead entity, right? So don't ever go into court saying, I'm a person and I have rights. No, you don't.
That's another mind-blowing subject on its own, isn't it? Yeah. And, we have been set up as corporations so they can make money of us.
That's right.
Look it up. And they are corporations. The governments are corporations.
Yeah. And so, again, getting back to law and orders and military operations, one of the executive orders that Trump has signed is giving power to the US military to seize the wealth, assets and property of any persons participating in serious human rights abuse or corruption. Executive Order 13818, like I said, you can go look it up. And the thing about that particular order is it's under international law, so it's not just US, it's international law, particularly the Five Eyes, Australia, UK, America, Canada, New Zealand. These are all the big key players in this process, right? This military, this executive order gives the military the power to seize the wealth and assets and property of any corporation, which is person, operating in corruption or serious human rights abuse. So, our government, Australian government, is a corporation participating in serious human rights abuse or corruption. And this is why Albanese is best buddies with Biden, is because they are all having their wealth, their property and their assets stripped and seized under these military orders. And they're all following the same laws and orders.
Some mind-blowing topics. And some things to think about. Some good things coming too, though, we hope. Hey, we have seen evidence of
100%. If you want irrefutable and unequivocal proof of this process and the good things that are coming, I highly recommend following the US debt clock. Right. It's a website, you can look it up, the US debt clock, right? They have a secret window in the top right-hand corner, right? You click on that secret window every 24 hours, it changes, I think. And there has been some big red pills coming out of the US debt clock, which is military control.
It's an information, gives information, is that what you're saying?
Yeah. If you, like I said, if you just go and look at the US debt clock, you'll be blown away with the amount of information that's there, right? It's a real-time clock of
events.
Of all different money transactions, and it shows the conversion of the US of the M2, which is the fiat money, into the US Treasury note, which is M2. Which is USNT. USTN, US Treasury note. But anyway, that shows how I think at the moment it's like $1,177 of fiat money equals $1 of the US Treasury note. Now just remember, this new US Treasury note, this QFS system, it's there, it's already, the foundations, the frameworks are there, but it hasn't been initiated yet. But if you go onto the US debt clock, you can see this transfer happening in real time. And like I said, in the top right-hand corner, it says secret window. And every 24 hours, that secret window changes. And there has been some really cool, mind-blowing red pills come out of that.
So Damian's talking about the QFS, like another money system, possibly.
Yep.
Happening in the background secretively by the good guys.
Basically going from... So the Federal Reserve just started printing more and more money over the years, decades, and so it's not that things have become more expensive, it's that the dollar has decreased in value. And this process, this change from the fiat to the US Treasury note is due, and again, you can see this on the US debt clock, but it's due to be finalised in 2025, which is the same time when all these military operations are due to sort of come to an end as well. So it's all timed perfectly.
Yeah. So there you go. Some stuff to think about.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it might. There's a lot, isn't there?
100%.
That's just some of it. But
that's a minuscule little segment of what's really going on. Absolutely.
It is, but for people that sort of, slowly realising that things are not right, and we can absolutely do things about it. And the first is education, and
locally get involved locally.
Yeah.
That's the biggest key I think anyone needs to do. Is this idea. There's three things that I think really, really help. Get involved at a local level, right? Learn about real history. What really, not what they try and teach you in school, but learn about what's really going on over these last 2,000 years, right? And then the third thing I would say is really important is to understand that the military are helping secure your freedoms, our freedoms. The military are not our enemies. The military don't work for the government. They're following a completely different set of rules and regulations. And as much as I would never say, sit back and do nothing, understand that the military have a very important role to play in this process.
Interesting. So, and there are groups. There are some good groups, like My Place. My Place Australia.
100%. That's how we met.
That's how we met, yeah. Have a look at it on Facebook, My Place Australia, and there's groups all around Australia. For My Place, there's common law groups, there's Guardians SA,
and
Facebook.
If you really feel like you don't know what to do, you don't know how to help, knock on your neighbour's door and ask them if they're okay, and if there's anything you can do to help your neighbour. Like I said, local, community level, that's how it all starts.
Yeah, because we've got to stick together as well, don't we?
100%.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, good on you, Damian. We'll catch up again, mate, and we just want to try and spread the truth, really, don't we? And just our opinions on stuff as well. Ask questions. Question everything we say here.
And don't be afraid to look at new information. This idea that no one knows everything. We're constantly learning every day. But the moment you say nah, then you've just closed yourself off to a whole bunch of new information that you could have learned.
Yeah, but if you've had a gutful, what about the cost of living? If you've had a gutful of that, and you know that things are not right, you know that the mandates were a load of crap, stand up, do something, ask questions. There's people with open arms. We got to stick together as we the people, because the people who are really trying to pull the strings in an evil way are...
their days are numbered.
Their days are numbered, but we need to know what's going on. And good on you, Damian. We'll catch up another time.
No worries,
and
man.
Everybody take it easy.
Yeah,
See ya.
Thanks for your time. Catch up.
See ya.